You've got 15 tabs open. You're flicking between them every 10 seconds, just to make sure that little status icon stays green. You've rewritten the same email 3 times, trying to make it sound, well, more important. You look incredibly busy. You are the poster child for productivity. But if you're being really honest with yourself, you haven't done a single meaningful thing all day. Sound familiar? This isn't just a slow day at the office. This is a performance, and you're the lead actor. It's called performance theater, and it's a draining, soul-crushing reality for millions of people who are trapped in a cycle of fake productivity. It's the art of looking busy, and it's become one of the most toxic unspoken pressures of modern work. So let's pull back the curtain on this whole charade, explore the psychological toll of pretending to work, and see how it's leading to widespread stress, alienation, and total mental burnout. Let's just call it what it feels like for many. Modern work has become a kind of adult daycare. It's a place where your physical presence or your digital one is the main thing they ask of you. The goal isn't always to create, to build, or to solve problems, but simply to look engaged for 8 hours a day. Performance theater is just the set of tricks we use to meet this weird expectation. One recent study found that around 65% of employees admit to putting on this kind of act, prioritizing looking busy over doing work that actually matters. It's things like sending messages just to appear active, a trick 41% of workers admitted to. It's sitting through meetings you know are completely pointless. It's even keeping your laptop screen awake when you're not there, a move used by 28% of employees. Think about it. The office, physical or virtual, is your stage. Your computer is your main prop. The script is unwritten, but the direction is crystal clear. Look productive, you're performing the role of the dedicated employee. The crazy part is that the play itself is meaningless. It has no plot, no climax, and half the time no real audience. The only rule is that you can never, ever stop acting. And that pressure is intense, driven by a deep-seated fear of being seen as lazy or disposable in a culture that constantly mistakes activity for achievement. So if our jobs are a stage play, what's the story we're actually telling? For a staggering number of people, the story is about nothing. This brings us to a really powerful idea from the late anthropologist David Graeber, the concept of bullshit jobs. Graeber argued that a huge chunk of modern jobs are, in the eyes of the people doing them, completely pointless. These aren't just bad jobs, they're roles that could vanish tomorrow without making any real difference to the world. Research has backed him up, showing that a big slice of the workforce feels their job is socially useless. One 2023 study found that 19% of employees felt this way, especially in fields like admin, sales, and finance. Other polls showed that up to a third of workers in the UK and US feel their job doesn't make a meaningful contribution to the world. This isn't about whether a job is objectively important, but about the private, personal feeling that your role just shouldn't exist. And this is where performance theater becomes a survival skill. When your main tasks feel meaningless, your entire job just becomes about the performance of work. It lines up perfectly with what sociologist Irving Goffman was talking about way back in 1956. He described our social lives as a kind of play, where we're all actors managing our front stage self to control how people see us. In the workplace, that means we're constantly managing the impression of being a competent, busy, valuable employee. The performance becomes the job. Your role is no longer accountant, it's person who appears to be diligently doing accounting. Playing a character for 40 hours a week is profoundly damaging. It might seem harmless on the surface, but the psychological consequences are real and they are rough. First off, there's the disengagement and frustration. When you spend your days on tasks you know are pointless, you just disconnect. This isn't simple boredom. It's a deep, nagging feeling that you're wasting your potential. You have skills you want to use and ideas you want to explore, but the system forces you to spend your time creating the illusion of work instead. You end up feeling like a cog in a machine that isn't actually going anywhere, and that creates a deep sense of alienation. Then there's the stress and complete mental exhaustion. You'd think pretending to work would be easier than actually working, but it's often the other way around. Keeping up a facade of productivity is incredibly draining. It's a constant, low-level anxiety, the fear of being found out. This leads to a unique kind of burnout. It's not the burnout you get from being overworked, it's what some call bore-out, the exhaustion that comes from being chronically understimulated while being pressured to look busy. In fact, workers who get caught up in productivity theater are 13% more likely to feel burnout because they're basically doing two jobs, the pointless tasks they were given and the exhausting performance of pretending those tasks matter. And maybe the most sinister effect is how it eats away at your sense of self-worth. There's a concept in psychology called the job characteristics model, which says that for work to feel meaningful, you need three things: using a variety of skills, seeing a project through from start to finish, and knowing your work actually impacts other people. Performative jobs lack all three. When your work has no significance, you start to feel insignificant. You start to internalize the uselessness of your role, and you begin to question your own skills, your intelligence, and your value. It's a quiet, creeping shame that makes you feel like an imposter in your own career. And I want to pause here and ask you, have you ever been trapped in this cycle? That feeling of frantically trying to look busy while feeling completely empty inside? If you have, share your story in the comments. You don't have to share any personal details, but just describing that feeling helps everyone realize they're not alone in this absurd play. Honestly, reading through the comments is often the most valuable part of these videos. If this experience is so common and so damaging, why is it such a huge part of modern work? Well, the truth is, this isn't a personal failure. You are not broken. This is a systemic problem, and you've been cast in a role you never auditioned for. One of the main culprits is just plain old bureaucratic inefficiency. You might have heard of Parkinson's Law, an old saying from the 50s that says, work expands to fill the time available for its completion. In so many big companies, this has led to entire departments and layers of management that create a waterfall of pointless tasks and reports, often just to justify their own existence. Another huge factor is how hard it is to measure knowledge work. On a factory floor, productivity is visible. You can count the widgets. But in an office, how do you measure the output of a thinker, a writer, or a strategist? Without clear metrics, a lot of companies fall back on a simple, flawed substitute: visibility. The person who's always online, who answers emails at 10 p.m., who's in the most meetings, they must be the most productive, right? This encourages looking busy over actually being effective. And finally, you have the inescapable influence of hustle culture. We're bombarded with the message that our value is tied to our productivity. We see it all over social media, those curated highlight reels of 5 a.m. routines and non-stop grinding. This creates a crushing pressure to project an image of constant, effortless productivity, even when the work itself feels totally hollow. The performance becomes a shield against the fear of being seen as falling behind. So how do you escape the theater? Quitting your job tomorrow probably isn't a realistic option for most of us. The solution isn't to storm off the stage, but to reclaim your mind while the play is still going on around you. First, and this is the most critical part, you need a mindset shift. Separate your identity from your job. You are not your job title. Your worth as a person is not, and has never been, measured by your output in a broken system. The performance isn't a reflection of you, it's a reflection of the messed up stage you're on. Giving yourself that emotional distance is the first real step to freedom. From there, you can practice what you might call strategic disengagement. This isn't about quiet quitting or slacking off. It's about making a conscious choice about where to put your limited energy. Do the bare minimum required to keep the performance going. Answer the emails, show up to the meetings, check the boxes. But emotionally, you check out of the theater. You refuse to let the absurdity of it all drain your spirit. Then, use the time and energy you get back to find meaning outside the performance. If your job is adult daycare, then use that time for your own growth. Learn a new skill online, listen to audiobooks, plan that side project you've been dreaming about. Your employer bought your time, but they don't own your mind. Let them pay you to quietly plan your next chapter. Finally, you can start planning your exit for the long term. Figure out what makes you feel alienated and what would actually bring you meaning. Look for roles or companies that value real results over the performance of work. The ultimate way to win is to leave the theater for good and find a stage where the work is real. The psychological toll of performance theater is no joke. It leaves us drained, cynical, and disconnected from who we really are. It's a massive waste of human potential, forcing bright, capable people into a silly pantomime of productivity that doesn't really serve anyone. But just recognizing the performance for what it is, a flawed system, not a personal failing, is the most powerful first step you can take. You aren't broken. You're a human being who's been forced to act in a ridiculous play. The solution isn't to get better at acting, it's to remember who you are when the curtain falls. Your real life, your real skills, and your real worth exist outside of that green status bubble and the endless pointless meetings. Reclaim your time, your mental energy, and your sense of self. The most radical thing you can do in the modern workplace is to stop performing and start living. If this video hit home for you, subscribe for more honest conversations about navigating the world of work. And please, check out the comments. You're not the only one feeling this way, and there's real power in knowing you're part of a community that gets it. Thanks for watching.